Good evening and welcome. It is time to get going on precision healthcare, your precision healthcare. We welcome you tonight for the DNA company. And am I reverbing a little? I just heard some backlash. Maybe it's just
Sounds
people
okay to
popping
me.
up. Oh, okay, cool. Well, my name is Dr. Stephanie Nielsen. I am a functional genomics practitioner. I have a doctorate degree in pharmacy and a board certification in clinical nutrition. I have been a pharmacist for over 40 years and a clinical pharmacist and nutritional functional medicine practitioner for over 25. I am excited to be with the DNA company because people can start testing and stop guessing. And the beautiful part of that is you can see your blueprint and then we get to the root cause. In fact, I heard someone say the other day, there is no biology, there is only chemistry. And the reason is all of your biological functions are biochemically interacted. And so what we are and what we'll offer you tonight is we are the master biochemists that will work through the maze that is known as you. And we have some exciting new programs for 2025 that we want to introduce you to. If you have taken your DNA test through the DNA company, you know that we have actionable results. If you've taken tests with other companies like I have, some of them are fun to know, but there's not a lot you can do with them. Like I can curl my tongue. That is a genetic trait, but it doesn't get me very far in the world when I want to improve my health. So tonight we're going to talk about the DNA4Men and the DNA4Women. And I am joined by two of my esteemed colleagues. One, Justin Harris, representing the men. Go Team Men.
Go Team Men.
And Dr. Lara Varden, who will be representing Team Women. And we're going to talk a little bit about these premium programs for getting to the bottom of what's aching you and how the DNA company can help you. So welcome to all of our guests tonight. This is a very interactive and participatory interaction. So we have a chat that you can put notes into, and we also have a Q&A. Q&A we will save for the end. If you hear something while we're chatting about the programs or about the company, you're welcome to put it in there. And if something triggers you along the way that you want to get a quick answer to, or you want more information, then we'll try to keep up with the chat. So with that, you know what, Justin, how long have you been with the DNA company?
I've been with the DNA company for 2 years, a little over 2 years actually. And there's certainly been several iterations, since the beginning, and new programs and more specified programs, and frankly, better programs, right? We're in a state of evolution constantly. And I think that the direction that we're going now and really introducing even more gender specified programs is that we're really trying to get further and further into this realm of personalization. As a practitioner, I'm really trying to get the biggest constellation possible of variables about you. That way I can tailor my approach. And we do that with genes, and we do that with gut status, and we do that with your rate of aging, which we'll talk a little bit about tonight. And then, yes, of course, your gender is an added specificity in there as well. So it's been a fun 2 years, and I can't wait to see what the next 10 have to offer.
So how many patients do you think that you've interacted with over the last 2 years?
Over 100, probably. As far as program patients, I'm not exactly sure, but we have one-time consults as well. And it's funny, we're actually getting a new software. So I had to go through my list of patients just last night, and I was up till like 11 p.m. doing it because there's been so many. And I arrived at quite a list, but I didn't get an exact number. Over 100, though.
Uh-huh. And what is if you can just generalize, what was the biggest consistency theme you saw between patients that did a one-off and patients that had a personalized program where you got to dig in and you got to know them and they got to know themselves? What was the biggest differences that you saw?
The biggest difference, I would say, was the level of clinical correlation and getting to know the person, like really having conversations and seeing what makes them tick. And the more time I'm able to spend with a patient, the more layers we're able to sort of uncover. I've always said that this is like making a sculpture. And it's like the sculpture is already in there. It's just that we got to peel away all these layers of sediment to actually get to what we want it to be. So the more time I spend with someone, the more layers I'm able to peel away. And so the bigger programs, I've had some pretty sizable transformations because of the time spent.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I think a lot of the times people think that this is just test based, but one of the things that we have found, particularly with our male clients, is it has been unsafe or unmasculine to maybe touch their emotional side. That doesn't mean their feminine side or anything, but to really dig in and say, where is my stress coming from? Or how did my um, upbringing influence my stress load? Or how does my boss's, interaction with me affect my health? And I think it's really exciting to see more and more guys going, could you help me with kind of the whole mind body connection?
Yeah, it's like there's sort of a social stigma surrounding it, right? That we can't necessarily do that, or we don't feel as though there's a safe space. I'm reminded of a story, a quick side tangent here. You guys know who Nora Vincent is? Have you ever heard of her? She was an author. Okay, so let me just tangent on this for a second, because this kind of makes a certain point about men and how society perceives us and how we should be and how that impacts our mental health. So Nora Vincent, she wrote a book back in 2006 called Self-Made Man. And she was actually a feminist, and she had an idea based on society that men had a much easier time. And I'm of the opinion that both men and women have difficulties. It's just they're very different. Right. So she embarked on this journey. She was going to disguise herself as a man for a period of 2 years, and she was going to effectively engage in all the masculine behavior. And she joined a men's bowling club and all these different things, tried to go on dates and stuff. And she did it with the intention of proving that men have a much easier roll of the dice. And what she actually found, she's unfortunately committed suicide since then. She found that men live lives of quiet desperation. She found that there was way, way less avenues for us to talk about our emotions, that there was a significant component of loneliness, that, women can ask 10 guys on a date and like 9 out of 10 say yes. Men can ask 100 women on a date and maybe one of them says yes, but we get way, way more rejections and things as well. So she found that there was a lot of issues, and she ended up only lasting 18 months, and she checked herself into a mental health institute because she was really struggling with that. So she didn't even make it the entire 2 years. And huge credit to her for being honest about that experience, because she ended up disproving her own point about men's role in society. So here we are, 2025, and I'm thinking to myself, that's a problem. It's a problem that men can't talk about the weight that's on their shoulders. And I'm really happy to be, one of the orchestrators of this new program, the DNA4Men, because I'm hoping that I can provide my own broad shoulders to maybe help take some of the load off of men. And so that was just an interesting little thing that I thought that.
I think that's brilliant. And I
Yeah.
think it's brilliant that you found it and took the time to do that. And kudos. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
We're going to get to our lovely Dr. Lara Varden, who's going to represent Team Women, DNA4Women. But before we do that, we have to our Magic DNA Angels, we have a guest from the Interior of Ministry from Rome, Italy, who's going to need a note that she attended tonight. So if our DNA angels can reach out to her and provide her an email that she can email to, and we can respond that back. We're happy to have Italy in the house and learning about precision DNA and human health. So, Dr. Lara, how long have
Yes.
you been with the DNA company?
Actually, about the same length the time Justin has, a little over 2 years. And it has been wonderful. It's so funny because I really think about that. I'm like, holy moly, it's been over 2 years. I just feel like I blinked and the time was gone. It's just amazing. It has been so fantastically wonderful. Just the people that I work with. I mean, you guys are absolutely amazing. Our team, it just has been growing, and the work that we are doing has been expanding. The vision of our incredible captain at the helm, Tracy Wood, just to see the vision that she has of the programs, of how she wants to help people, and making that happen through these programs, through the iterations and the evolution of the different programs that we have, the expansiveness that we are offering, specificity, the more testing. I mean, we've got 6 tests now, and we're even expanding on that, going not just, for example, our Gut 360. We have our regular Gut 360 test, which is wonderful. It has fantastic information, actionable items. But with our new Gut 360 Premium, that is like taking it way to the next level, which is being offered in these programs. I mean, so much more in-depth information. We can talk a little bit more about that, more in this webinar. But it is so exciting to see, and being able to be on that wave, riding it, and helping people. I just am inspired every day by the clients that I work with. And I have seen hundreds, program clients, consults, and, everything in between. And I learn every day, from my clients, from my colleagues, the continued education that I put myself in, because there's always so much more to learn. We are on the cutting edge of science, using genetics, using functional genomics, incorporating into personalized medicine and care. This is where it's at. This is where health is propelling, and we are at the forefront of that wave. And I am so excited to be here and to be Dean of the DNA University, and helping to teach other practitioners, doctors, health coaches, whomever, to teach them about our DNA 360 kit, to teach them about the other tests that we have, and being able for them to implement it in their own practices. It's amazing. I love what I do.
Well, it's interesting. I'm glad you brought up that you're the dean of the university, because, whether a lay person wants to help their family, whether a practitioner wants to introduce DNA into their practice, whether someone just wants to learn for their own idea, we have a whole educational program. But I think it is so exciting to know that when we first came out with the DNA tests, a lot of our consults were education about DNA. It was kind of like, this is what an MTHFR gene does, and this is what methylation really means. And now there are some companies that are just based on an MTHFR. The difference between the DNA company and a company with just a single gene is we have over 72 actionable genes. In fact, we have 4, the MTRR and the MTHFR, and we have a couple more that are all related to methylation. Well, if you focus on a single gene, that's just like saying, you just look at the ear. You don't look at all the other senses, not the eyes, not the taste, not the smell. You're getting a very limited view of the world. When you look at 4 different methylation genes, one is hyperactive, one is super low acting, 2 are medium. Well, each one goes down kind of a different path. Now, do they get to the same place? Some do, some don't. So by having those additional genes and those additional insights, you can make better health decisions for yourself. So when we talk about DNA4Women, this new precision program, medicine is becoming more and more personal. Would you both agree?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and rightfully so. Yeah.
Well, and exactly, rightfully so, because how many of us have been to our practitioner, and I don't even say doctor anymore, because maybe it's a health coach, maybe it's a doctor, maybe it's a nurse practitioner, maybe it's a PA, whatever. But how many of us have been to our health practitioner and they say, your lab values are fine, goodbye, or here, I'll write a prescription. And you're like, I came in because I don't feel well. I came in because I'm off. Don't tell me I'm fine. This is normal aging. Don't tell me you're the healthiest one in my whole practice. Well, sorry for you that your practice sucks, but I don't feel good and I want to feel better. So what we've all agreed that our consults have turned into is, why are you coming in? What have you tried? What isn't working? What does your DNA show us? And how can we take that roadmap and put it together with practical application and move you from here to here? Now, I'll tell you that I'm 61 and I've always gotten fabulous, fabulous, fabulous on all my lab results. Well, I shouldn't say. When I was 21, I had cancer. They weren't so fabulous then. But after that, it was always fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. I'd go to the doctor once a year, maybe twice a year if I wanted something, whatever. But as I hit 60, I said, I'm still fabulous, right? And then this past year, one of our new tests came, which was the DNA Breast 360. And I got a positive clinical result for a low-grade chronic inflammation that could lead to breast cancer. And I'm in an age and I take bioidentical hormones. So there was potential that I could have breast cancer or have it developing. Well, that was a wake-up call. Then I'm also a celiac. And a lot of my cancer very early on was because I was a celiac. And I get a gut test. And my gut test says, you've got inflammation. You are not active celiac, but you're right on the end, kind of like pre-diabetic, kind of pre-celiac. I had inflammation in my throat, inflammation in my esophagus, inflammation in my gut, inflammation in my colon. My father's had cancer 5 different times, 5 different cancers. And one of our big ones is colon cancer, esophageal cancer. And here I was thinking, I've always been so great, but it wasn't until I did my DNA and I did my DNA 360 breast and I did my gut test that I was able to go deeper and go, I've been slipping a little and it's time to correct that boat. You know, sometimes you don't even know you're going off the road until you hit off the road and you're tired jumping, you pop back on. So for those of you who are looking for more information, for more in-depth information, for personalized to an N of 1, that means you and only you. We've got new programs, DNA4Women and DNA4Men. And Dr. Lara, let's go through DNA4Women because this is advanced diagnostics. This is not just go
Absolutely.
get, you know, a basic, your hemoglobin's okay, or your, you know, glucose is 100. So we've got advanced genomics, a really comprehensive look at that, targeted solutions to move you from X to Y, and then really focusing on a specific women's health. Can you go through kind of what's in the program and how it targets women specifically for that precision care?
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you're actually looking at, okay, what do you get with this program? So for the DNA4Women program, you get 4 clinical hours. Okay. The clinical hours are really, you know, hour-long sessions to really start diving deep into the history, into who you are. You are not going to be invalidated with us. We aren't going to tell you, oh, everything looks fine, you're good. When you're saying, I still feel like crap. Okay. I'm having these symptoms. Okay. We dig deeper. And this is the time that we do that. We look at your DNA because your DNA 360 kit is part of that. You get 3 coaching sessions. So after your clinical hours, you get 30 minutes, 3 30-minute coaching sessions. So that way it gives you time to start implementing the recommendations, the changes, the lifestyle changes, really implementing that, working it into your routine and seeing how that manifests. Looking at, okay, so how are we doing? You know, let's look at your blood work. Okay, we're implementing this. Okay, now you've started making these changes. How are you doing now? Do we need to shift and pivot somewhere because that's not working so well? Oh, these things are working well. Great, keep doing these. So it's that constant allowing to check in to say, hey, we're following you. And we're not just, you know, handing you some stuff and see ya. Okay, you're on your own. No, we are here for you. For as far as like the tests, you get the Dutch test. Now, the Dutch test is a dried urine test for complete hormones, comprehensive hormones. So this is really looking at the whole process, as far as your androgens, your estrogens, how are you metabolizing them? What is the percentages that we're looking at? We can correlate this information to your DNA on your genetics. Like, what is your tendency for, making these estrogen metabolites? Do you have a higher risk for estrogen toxicity? Again, your DNA is one aspect. I like to explain to my clients like as if it's a puzzle, okay, with lots of different pieces. The DNA 360, knowing your genetics, okay, your functional genetic pathways, very important, big piece of the puzzle, but it's not the only piece. That's why we have these other tests, because that's your DNA. It doesn't change. But what's important is the epigenetics, how those genes are being expressed. So what are you doing? So we need to have some sort of objective data labs to take a look at and say, okay, this is where you are. Let's start kind of turning those dials, manipulating those genes, and let's have them express a little differently so that way we can make you even better. And, these tests are very good at doing that, but we can look to see how they weave together, how this information of your genetics, of the test, of what's currently going on. And that will also give us information on where do we go from here. Another test we do is the full metabolic panel. This is a blood test. Incorporates things like CBC with differential, which is your complete blood count, looking at your red blood cells, your white blood cells, looking at like a complete metabolic panel. So we want to know, how are your liver enzymes? How's your kidney function? How are your levels, in general, because this is a systemic situation. It's a systems biology. Everything is connected. We also do the Gut 360 test and report, the Gut 360 premium, which I kind of alluded to earlier. And that is absolutely amazing. I totally nerd out on the science on this. It really dives in so much more into looking at the details of not just the what phyla you have, what species you have. It goes even deeper and looks into the connectedness of, okay, so these populations affect things like brain health, metabolic health, skin health, physical performance. Not just that, but it will actually go through and take a look at going, okay, so based on this, these are the action items. These are things that you need. This is how it can be affected, for marking a different health concerns, whether it can affect increase in anxiety or even post-traumatic stress disorder or regular stress, or not just gut inflammation, but more specifically, how can this or how could this be manifesting and showing in you? And going right down to specific vitamins or foods or other action items that should be implemented to help with that. Like I said, absolutely amazing. I could just like nerd out on it.
Well, speaking of implementing, let's go on and see. We had a poll earlier. Let's see what we can implement here with our poll. Thank you. Oh, look, little our DNA fairies popped it right up. Breaking barriers in gender-based health. Have you worked with a functional or precision health coach in the past? Yes, we got 31% that currently are. Yes, in the past, 12%. No, but I'm interested, 54%. Look how smart you are. No, I rely on standard healthcare, 4%. I find that a lot of our clients, a lot of people who are attracted to our work are very proactive in their health, that they do a lot of reading. They're very well informed. And they often come as informed as another practitioner. Or, look, I've done this. What do you think of this? I had one of my clients this week say, "Hey, I'm thinking about getting on this. What do you think?" I'm like, "I've never even heard of it." So I love that, 31% are currently working with someone, 12% have in the past, and the other 54%. So now we're looking at 80 plus, even 90% that says, "Hey, I'm taking charge of my health." And that is a perfect candidate for a precision care, because this is all about you, and you. So if you're looking for you, look no further. Have you ever felt that the generic health advice didn't work for you? Yes, frequently, 65%, and then 19% sometimes. So, Justin, what generic health advice have you taken that didn't work for you?
So I actually told a story. We did a webinar last night, and this is really relevant for the traditional approach versus a more precision and personalized approach. So my 13th birthday, the literal day I turned 13, was when I got my first zit. And it actually turned into a significant acne problem, and it was like it's a difficult thing to go through as a young person, and you're in high school, and it adds to social anxieties and different things. But of course, not knowing any better, I just went to my doctor. And you're a teenager, you're eating friggin' whatever, pizza pops and all kind of stuff. So my doctor put me on something called tetracycline, which is it's an antibiotic. And with no questionnaire, no, are you hydrated, are you eating well, are you taking omega-3s, probiotics, anything, he just simply placed me on antibiotics, and he put me on this really acidic face cream that like burned, and it was brutal. He kept me on that from age 13 to age 17 without a break. So my entire puberty, based on general advice, I was on antibiotics. I'm so lucky that I'm not more muffed up than I ended up, and being a biohacker, I've worked relentlessly to correct a lot of these issues and genes and the different tools that we use. But that was a big problem. I ended up with very serious anxiety problems, depression problems. It just wrecked my microbiome. So I think that it was a good thing because it led me to being a health coach. The wounded healer concept is always there. But gosh, I mean, they took me off that and they put me right on to Accutane, which has been yanked off the damn market since then because it's overdosing on vitamin A, cooks your liver. Like, this is what I mean, right? Like, precision medicine matters because no one asked me about my lifestyle at all. They just put me on something, and it was a really difficult thing for my body. And I really had to work backwards for a decade after that to fix the problem. So that was just my more visceral example because I was literally put on that, and there's no worse advice you could give than, oh, you have acne. Well, let's put you on something that's going to wipe out the entirety of your phyla, right? And that's not an uncommon story, right? Like, everybody has some sort of story like that, being put on some medication because they went to their typical MD and it was just generic. This is what we do for that. So there you go. Our approach, I mean, I've fixed people's skin problems by increasing detoxification and getting them on the right diet and shoring up micronutrients and higher quality care, right? So that sort of drove me to what we do now, because I know how tough some of these things can be. And in general, this advice is not for you. It's just something that they sort of dole out without consideration.
Yeah. Dr. Lara, how about you? What was some general advice or generic advice that didn't work for you?
Oh, heavens. Honestly, a lot of mine stemmed from the car accident I had back in 2001, because I was very healthy before that. Professional figure skater, was, ran 5 miles every day, went hiking with the kids, did all this stuff. And honestly, I hardly ever saw a doctor. But after that, it was very similar in the fact of, like, what Justin dealt with, doing that diagnose, prescribe, when I was, obviously having the chronic pain, because I had a lot of physical issues with herniated ruptured discs, muscle trauma-induced scoliosis. I mean, it was a mess. And of course, immediately, what do? Remember, this is like 2001, put me on narcotics. And, the whole host of other drugs that they give, Neurontin and Flexeril and muscle relaxants. And then I had to be on a bunch of other medications to help with the side effects of the first load of medications. And I mean, it just got into this spiral where, granted, they did have me go to like a pain management clinic, and we talked about, working with chronic pain and stuff like that. But nowhere during that time did they ever ask about, what is your environment like? Are you exposed to toxins, things that would increase my inflammation and my pain, the pain tolerance and pain in general? They didn't ask about, how often do I poop? Because we talked about this last night in the in our webinar, that if you are constipated, and Lord knows anybody who's been on narcotics or pain meds, it constipates you like crazy. Yeah. And that will exacerbate the back pain. And I mean, it's just like, they never got to root causes. Well, we know why I was in pain, for the car accident, but never giving me like foods, anti-inflammatory foods, or helping with hydration, or, it was just medications. And I hated taking the medications, hated it. I felt like I was a slave to it. And I was just in this constant haze, non-clarity. I mean, and that gets you through the whole thing of depression, anxiety. It's like, do I have to live my life, the rest of my life like this? And really tough. And it wasn't until I decided to take my health into my own hands and say, I want to get off this hamster wheel. There's got to be something more. There's got to be a different way. And I'll tell you, from going from being in a wheelchair and not being able to walk without a cane, to the transformation of when I took my health into my own hands, started changing my diet, started changing exercise routine and mobility and movement and, stress reduction and everything else. I went to be able to get off all of my medication that I had been on for 14 years. Oh my God. Got off of it. I have not gone back since. That was back in 2015. And like I said, I was in a wheelchair, couldn't walk without a cane, where in 2020, I climbed 38 mountains that year. So,
wow, girl.
Yeah, because it was a matter of really getting to the root cause, right. Like what Justin was talking about, how he works with clients, trying to figure out, let's shore up the foundations, clear the muddy waters, figure out what's going on, because a lot of the issues will work themselves out downstream by doing that. Right. Then you can start, personalizing even more, turning those smaller dials, and then really optimizing. And that's what these programs can help you do. I mean, here we're talking about, areas that of people's health that they're struggling with the most. I mean, it's a pretty even stretch across between hormone balance, energy and metabolism, gut health, longevity and aging, looking at just overall performance. I mean, really, it's pretty even across the board. The thing is, when we are looking at all these things, when we are working to help people with these foundational things, how's your sleep? Getting them to have good sleep, regulating their hormones, regulating their blood sugar. Okay. Making sure that they are defecating and getting these toxins out. A lot of these issues are going to be worked out. They're going to start feeling better. It's just, I love the fact that, here where, the majority of people, over 60% here, 62% saying that their primary health goal for 2025 is increased longevity and healthy aging. Because that's kind of like an umbrella that covers all of this. And I so appreciate the passion and the determination for people taking back the agency for their own health. just like I did. I took back my own agency. Yes, I needed to learn more. Yes, I need to do that. That's why I got a PhD. That's why I learned and did the things. That's why I became a certified functional genomics practitioner. That's why I became a holistic healthcare practitioner. That's why I'm doing what I am doing, because I am grabbing life by the balls and making sure that I am taking my agency back for my own health. Do I need help with that sometimes? Absolutely. But this is, I lean in on you guys and your intelligence and your experience and other friends and, other researchers. But that's why we're here for our audience. They can lean in on us. We can start educating them and helping them, through these programs.
Well, that's why I think the gender-based health is really important, because when we talk about hormones, which is one of my favorite things, the Dutch test tells you so much. I mean, there's over 26 different hormone metabolites that get tested, but it shows you the pathways. So just like the DNA gives you a background for the pathways, then the Dutch test actually shows you. But what people often forget, there are women that have menopause that just sail through it, and there's women that really struggle. And a lot of that is metabolic health. But we also have andropause. Andropause is when a man loses his hormones. And because of all the hormone disruptors in our food, in our cosmetics, in our just personal health care, in our environment, more and more men are going through andropause much earlier. As a pharmacist, I see supplementing testosterone and blocking, phytoestrogens as young as men in their 20s. And this used to be 40s, 50s, 60s. But now I have these 25-year-olds that come in to get supplemental, and people also don't realize how much thyroid issues can affect mental health. And a lot of people don't know there's also melatonopause. So why do old people not sleep? The body stops making as much melatonin. There is an old myth that if you took too much melatonin, that it would stop your natural production and you would be dependent on the rest of your life. Well, the latest research proves that wrong. It does not impact how much your body's making, but you know what does? Light. You've got to get bright light in your eyes in the morning. Get those sunglasses off. Get 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. And then my glasses have blue blockers in them. They're not the, red or the yellow, really. I can see yours have a little bit in it, Lara.
Yeah.
But we need more light therapy. Well, how often does your doctor talk to you about light therapy? Probably not. And then when we get into fatigue, we were all talking about our water and putting minerals in it.
Mm-hmm.
And we use electrolytes all day, every day. And now if I have water that doesn't have my electrolytes in it, and I like mine just plain natural, just good old sea salt and potassium chloride and some magnesium, I just plain old, I crave the saltiness in my mouth. And for years and years and years, I would go to my practitioner and they'd be like, well, your blood work's great, but you look a little dehydrated. You look a little dehydrated. Well, I didn't realize until I started running hair tissue mineral analyses and watched how depleted I had been, so dehydrated for so long that it starts affecting all of your tissues. And it's like, oh my gosh, have you guys even heard of the Dutch test? Have you heard of hair tissue mineral analysis? Talk about the general health. I knew about eating probiotic foods. I knew about eating kimchi and maybe having kombucha and so forth and so on. But guess what? Kombucha doesn't work for me. And I started making my own kombucha, and I had gallons and gallons of it. And then I would take my little mushroom, my Scooby, and I would put it in a new one. And one turned to 2, turned to 4, turned to 8. Pretty soon my whole pantry is kombucha. Well, kombucha was making me sick because it feeds candida. And I had massive candidal overgrowth. So the general advice is just eat probiotic foods. If you don't know which part of your gut is in balance, and 77% of your overall immune health comes from your gut, your brain health comes from your gut, your skin health comes from your gut, There's so much, your sleep comes from your gut. So I love that 23% say that their digestive issues, bloating, microbiome. I don't know how many of you can relate. When I grew up, I moved a lot. I wasn't a military brat, but I was a corporate vet, and we moved about every 18 months. And whether it'd be at the beach or whether I'd be at a swimming pool, I was a lifeguard, and I'd see all these girls with these flat tummies. They had their cute little bikinis on, and they looked so awesome, and they had these flat little tummies. And I was always slender, and I was always fit. I was a runner, and I was a cheerleader, and on track and all this, but I always had a pooch. No matter what, they're like, oh, it's just the sway in your back and it just pooches out. No, it wasn't. It was gut health. It was gut health because my microbiome was off. I was such a sickly, allergic kid that I had as many doses of antibiotics as I would have women's cycles in a year. I'd have 2 weeks of being well, 2 weeks of getting sick, a round of antibiotics, and we'd start over. I'd have 8 to 9 rounds of antibiotics a year. And by the time I was 21, they wanted to give me a bone marrow transplant because they're like, well, let's just Control Alt Delete. Let's wipe out your immune system and hope it regrows okay. Well, what would I have done? They would have fed me in the hospital grilled cheese sandwiches, Jell-O, Sprite. I can't have sugar. I can't have bread, and I can't have fake dairy. I can have raw dairy, but they would have killed me. So I would have had $1 million in medical debt that I left to my parents, and I would be dead. That's general medical advice that fails you. So once you know your genes, once you know the pathways that you can go, then you go down a pathway. I think everybody should have a genetic test, before the age of 10, probably before the age of 5, because you see all these 5 to 10-year-olds that you so want to desperately help. And if you could put that test instead of guess in front of their parents and say, they really can't do dairy. They really shouldn't have, this. And I was watching part of the HHS the congressional stuff today about RFK Jr. And there was a lot of stuff about, will you take away all the junk food? Will you impact and tell pharma that they can't make things anymore? Will you change the school diets? And they're like, the sad thing was, of course, they were just attacking him. But he said, why are we feeding sweet drinks and nutritionally deficient foods? Why not take our money and put it toward real food to strengthen our kids? That I can get behind. I mean, real food rots, and everything that's preserved then leads to the toxicity in your body that you have to then detoxify. So I think it's fabulous that people are looking at their hormonal health and their gut health and longevity. Brain health is critical, but it all gets to the root of inflammation. And how do we eliminate inflammation? We've got to know where your body triggers. Justin, let's go to the DNA4Men. And let's talk about what's in the clinical program there, because we don't have a Dutch test for you, though we could do a Dutch test for you because there is all the male hormones.
Yeah, well, and even estrogen metabolites and things, it's not that they're completely irrelevant for men. It's just that it's generally a little bit less pronounced. But I mean, it's the same idea as the DNA for women. It's just a little bit more specified because, of course, the male body, there's a few differences. Cardiovascular health is typically a little bit more compromised in men. And I do believe that there is stress components to these different things, possibly relating back to what I talked about earlier about us just not really having the opportunity to vent about our problems so much. And we tend to store it more, and we won't accept health and different things. So hopefully we can change that a little bit. But the male program, you've got 3 clinical hours. So we would call those audits, right? Where we sort of go through the genes and we talk about the differences there. And then for men, we have 5 coaching sessions, which are 30 minutes apiece. And I think that that's really more of an opportunity to go over the mental health components. It's funny because men are actually more emotional than you may think. It's just that we tend to suppress it, but it's like, men I would argue that we feel rage on a level that maybe some females haven't quite experienced, like murderous level rage is just there because we have so much testosterone and things in our bodies, or not enough testosterone in our bodies. And that's a whole separate issue. After breakups, I mean, way more men commit suicide than women. And I think that that's, a testament to how emotional we actually are. It's just that we are designed in such a way that we're supposed to be stoic, and we're not supposed to talk about it. So there's a lot more focus on the actual coaching and the mental health kind of components there. You do get the Gut 360 premium that Dr. Laura was discussing. There's also the de-aging premium as well, which is really awesome because it's really showing you your methylation patterns and how that's going to contribute to your body's rate of aging. And there's a difference between the normal aging test that we do and the premium. So the normal aging test has the Dunedin pace, which shows you the rate of aging basically per calendar year. Are you aging at an accelerated rate beyond that? So are you aging at a 1.01 years per year? Even that is enough to increase your likelihood of things like cardiovascular disease by a significant percentage. So we need to see how your body is biologically aging. It's also normally got the telomere test, but the premium one also adds in something called Symphony Age, which actually shows you 11 different organ systems and the different aging rates of different systems, right? So the aging of your brain versus the aging of your lungs versus the aging of your immune system. All of that is on the Symphony Age. Then there's also another one called Omic Age, which really takes into account sort of your body's history of aging. So it's not going to be super duper responsive to things that you just added in last week, but it's going to show you kind of that historical account, and it almost gives you a running average of how your body is aging. So it's the premium that comes with, and that's really useful. You also get the blue light glasses, which I was kind of smirking because you guys were talking about light and melatonin and how much that matters for your quality of sleep, especially as you age. And so the program actually comes with a complimentary set of that as well, because we're going to be talking about circadian rhythms. Your sleep matters so much, as we all know. And you also get the access to the 24-hour nurse hotline.
Well, can I tell you, I had a patient recently and they were putting him on sleep medicines and it wasn't keeping him down. And then they put him on antipsychotic medicines and it wasn't keeping him down. And they were trying to make the side effects be the direct effect. And for many of you who know, as a pharmacist, there is no such thing as side effects. They're all direct effects. It's just not the direct effect that's being marketed for.
Yeah.
So for Viagra, it was a blood pressure medicine, but it found that the side effect was for male enhancement. And then they market it toward that and they charge 5 times as much as they did when it was for blood pressure. So this patient was not sleeping, and kind of like a baby, had turned the nights into days and would get up and wander all night. And I finally said to the clinical staff, I said, let's check cortisol levels. Well, the practitioner checked a single morning cortisol, said it's normal, it's fine. I said, no, let's check the diurnal rhythm, to which they looked at me and went, huh? I said, no, we're going to do urine tests. We're going to look at the metabolites and we're going to see what their pattern looks like the day. Sure enough, first thing in the morning, he was low. Last thing at night, he was high. That's the opposite of what you want to be. You want to be high in the morning and low at night. So we put him on some stuff to help his car get up in the morning. That's cortisol awakening response. And then I said, just take him outside, get him in the solarium for the first hour of the morning, get him up, get his coffee, sit him in the solarium, because oftentimes he's in a wheelchair because he's with assisted, people. And I said, just in the morning, good, bad, or ugly, get him outside. Guess what? It was 2 days. And he flipped back and he started sleeping at night. And they're like, it must be the new medicine. And I said, what new medicine? And they go, oh, we discontinued that. I said, no, it's light. He had a darkness deficiency because they were closing his curtains all day, every day. And so the darkness threw his melatonin off. And, the beautiful thing was, that's precision care, guys. That is looking at your lifestyle, looking at your hormones, looking at the unique part of you and going, this is not rocket science. It's biochemistry. And we stop putting everything in a box, the heart box, the hormone box, the bone box, the brain box. How about we look at it like a skeleton watch where you can look in and see all the cogwheels going like this because they all interact with each other. We want you to have the most support on, hey, my sleeping's not that great. Hey, I've got a few pounds I'd like to lose. Hey, I don't think as well as I used to. Hey, nothing tastes good anymore. Life just doesn't feel fabulous, and when we look at all of those different things and we layer them together. Anybody know what a Venn diagram is? They're my favorite. So you take one circle, here is the symptom circle, here's the test circle, here's your DNA circle, and you overlap in this little spot right in the middle. That's where you are. And that's where those symptoms are. And that's where we can go, bingo. And we start there. And like Dr. Lara said, so when you undo that one, guess what? And then another one undoes, and then another one undoes. And all of a sudden it opens back up and you're like, I've got my life back. Now, these are precision programs that are tailored for genetics. We actually have a precision patient, which is a 6 months to year-long program. Now you have to be interviewed for this, and you have to come in with all the things you've done and all the things that you've tried and all the things that haven't worked. It's kind of like going to a major medical center where they put together a whole team of people and you have to be accepted into the program. When I worked in major medical centers for 5 years and I was on this clinical team, and they would take a case study of one patient, and then we would put them through all this battery, and then we would all put our heads together and we'd all round and talk about it. And where nobody else had helped them, finally they got some breakthroughs, and finally they had these ahas. But it was because we had 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 of us that all were putting our heads together. This is a mini version of that. You get a clinician and you get 3 to 4 clinical hours. You get 3 to 5 coaching sessions to implement. You get unlimited emailing through our electronic medical records. You can like, well, what about this? And what about this? And I know you said berries were okay, but what about boysenberries? Was it just blueberries and raspberries? And so you get all those answered, and they coach you along the way, so that at the end you go, I started here and I'm so happy because I ended here. And if you think that that type of a program would help, then we invite you to get in touch with us and look at that. And if you have bigger ones, like I'm on 2, 3 or 4 precision teams right now. And we had one gal who was a medical professional, and she was fed up with all the medical professionals treating her because they just put her in that generic box. She's had major breakthroughs, major, from getting rid of her hormonal issues, getting rid of adult acne, actually stopping racing panic attacks. We have another gal who was losing massive amounts of weight. Everybody kept thinking maybe she had cancer. She didn't, but she had a gut issue. And now we've got her sleeping, and now we've got her hormones more balanced. And now all of a sudden life is brighter. And she's like, I feel so cared for. I feel so in touch. I feel like I have people that actually know me and what I need. And maybe this is your year to do you. Maybe this is your year to really take, I'm tired of just 7 minutes and being handed a prescription. Maybe it's time to dive deep and take charge of your health. So let's answer some of these questions. Dr. Lara, I see that there's actually some comment in the chat that you might be able to help us address. Oh, Jenny just put some smiles and hearts. Thank you. I think it's Jenna or Jenny. But there's from Nina. So Lara, I'm going to address this to you.
Okay, so Nina had mentioned about that she's very advanced all through, growing up in elementary school. They had said, hey, maybe you should skip a grade, but she didn't want to. She says about having lots of good big ideas, even during her study, and even through work. And a lot of them were realized even in world famous health centers. But she says that she's on psychiatric drugs now, infertile, brain blocked because of taking the pills. She's not working at this time. And she actually was or is diagnosed schizophrenic. And she just is like, what's wrong with me? And, with the medications that she's taking, she says she's taking 9 pills a day, and she's just had it. She wants to cry. And my heart absolutely breaks for her. Um, these are the types of things that we can look at, that we can start teasing out, going, okay, well, what's going on? And what are some of the low-hanging fruit that we can, start cleaning up, start looking at, toxic exposures, start dealing with some of the traumas in your life. We do have mental health professionals on the team, and we can start really diving in a holistic, integrative way, not leaving any stone unturned. So actually, it can be rather daunting, when it's like you just don't know where to turn. You don't know where to go. You're not getting any answers, and it seems like everything you've tried failed. And what I can say is that I get it. I understand. I've been there. But don't give up. Okay? There's always hope. Just need some, different perspectives, looking at different things, asking different questions, having a team who's got your back, who can do those things. Because trust me, when you are sick and tired and being sick of being tired, and you don't have the energy, and you're frustrated, and you've got high anxiety and high stress, it is so hard, so challenging to know what questions to ask, to even reach out and ask for help. But you being here, and anyone listening to this live right now or on replays, you're already taking the first step. You are finding out what else is possible. Now, I can't guarantee anything. None of us can. But we can tell you there is a very high probability that there are going to be wins, and that you are going to start feeling better in some way, shape, or form. And we are going to put everything that we have, knowledge, experience, whatever we have, we are going to put behind you to figure it out so we can help you. So
Thank you for that. Thank you. So I want to take Lisa's question and give this to Justin. Thank you for addressing Andropause. Why isn't it this more in the public domain? I think Andropause is a huge contributing factor to the epidemic that we're seeing in middle-aged men and their issues. Justin?
I'm completely in agreement that it is a huge contributing factor to that. And I think that there's a few things going on there, right? I mean, there's always the societal kind of component to that. Part of it is our fault as well, because men, when we're having problems, and especially when it comes to the more embarrassing problems, we really don't want to talk about it. And to an extent, andropause really is a natural consequence of aging, sure, but it's happening earlier and earlier, to Dr. Stephanie's point. And I think that there's a few reasons for that. There's so many just endocrine disruptors in what we have now, the air and the water and the food supply, and just, skincare products. There's all kinds of different things interrupting our hormones nowadays. And then there's toxic media, right? There's a lot going on right now. There's also the fact that for the most part, when men start to have, if you're like a 40-something-year-old man, and you start to struggle with these issues and you try to bring it up to someone, the unfortunate reality is they're going to be like, oh, that's nice. Go to work, asshole. Right? That's the answer that a lot of us get. I don't think a lot of people love listening to men complain about stuff. But I think that it is a significant contributor to our mental health issues as well, because if you're struggling with libido, if you find that you're losing your strength and you can't keep your muscle mass on and different things into old age, of course, that's going to impact your psychology, right? It really makes us feel less than. So I've had so many clients that have struggled with these different things, libido problems and what have you. And I really work on nourishing the body's innate intelligence. And I try to really restore natural testosterone levels with all kinds of things, right? Just the right exercise, the right diet, right? Focusing on healthy fats and, waking up and getting some kettlebell swings and getting your sleep on right. All of those things matter, right? So there's so many different components to hormones. And I always say that, hormones do react to the environmental stimulus that you provide. And it's a little bit of a cheesy way to put it, but I say we need to give your body warrior signals. It's totally cheesy, but it's true, right? Because if you wake up every day and you go for a run and you're telling your body that you really are just running from predators all the time, and this is not a particularly good environment to procreate within. Right. So if we swap that and you start doing some more functional weightlifting, maybe we add in some high quality animal products, your body's going to go, oh, this dude is a successful hunter. We need to give him some testosterone because he should be aggressive. And we need to repair this muscle tissue and different things, So there's genes involved, and then there's also environment involved and lifestyle factors. So I think that this epidemic that you referenced there, Lisa, can be reversed, and I plan on playing a big role in that reversal.
Well, and I want to also say that we had an anonymous attendee, and sadly it was anonymous because we're just talking about the embarrassment in the male population. But I agree with Justin. Our men are in crisis and we're flailing and flailing. Help is available and accessible, but too often they just won't take the steps to help themselves. They get in their own way. I think that's kudos. And I think we've brought it up several times tonight saying, help is here. We're here to help. And you know what? This is a safe place to be vulnerable and to ask for help without being dismissed. So, just we want to make sure that your things are getting addressed. So there's another question by Tamara. Are there personalized treatments for breast cancer? Well, there's lots of personalized treatments for breast cancer. We do more preventative screening. And when we do the screening, then we aren't doing actual breast cancer treatments. We'll probably refer you to one of our associates. So what I'll tell you is the DNA company has 31,000 people that they have trained. And that's part of the DNA University that Laura's the dean of. And so we have a lot of people that are in the functional or integrative health that are our partners that we could refer you to someone that is their specialty. I think one of the things to know is specialty. Somebody who says, I dabble at hormones probably isn't going to do a lot of hormones. A lot of the hormone work that I do is with women who, as they say, my doctor gave me a dusting and it's not enough to do anything. And I've been taking them and spending all the money, but I'm not seeing a difference. Then we actually get them to a therapeutic level and they go, oh my gosh, I'm sleeping. Oh my gosh, I'm wet again. Oh my gosh, I actually desire my partner. And they're like, if I'd only known. So you've got to get it in the optimal zones when we're looking at things. And we don't want you to just flirt with health. We want you to embrace it and grab it and be a warrior about your health so that you've got that. So let's look at Tamara, Dr. Lara. I just did my DNA test. I'm waiting for my report, all excited. I'm 51 and I'm going through perimenopause. Do I need a Dutch test or will my DNA be enough? I'm doing this for optimal health and I know I can support my health with this. Thank you.
So Tamara, I would say that depending on what your goals are, what symptoms you may have, if you are interested in looking at BHRT, bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, then yes, a Dutch test would be very helpful because remember how I was saying earlier that your genes are what you have when you were conceived to the day you die. That's not going to change, but the expression of them does. So you could be estrogen dominant Okay. You could have a risk of estrogen toxicity based on your genes, but you may not be producing a lot of those metabolites that are more inflammatory, like the 4-hydroxy or 16-alpha hydroxyestrone. I mean, I'm a perfect example. Okay. My genetics show that I am estrogen dominant, that I have increased risk of estrogen toxicity. I am through menopause. I have, I've started taking bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. I just did my Dutch test. And in there,
You want help reviewing it, babe? You know where to go.
absolutely. I just got it today. The thing is that based on the things that I have been doing for better health, in my genetics, I am genetically predisposed to create more 4-hydroxyestrone metabolites, which are very inflammatory and can cause DNA damage if it's not methylated. Well, in my Dutch report, I found that actually I'm not making very many because I have been implementing things to make sure that I don't. So again, it is a great marker. Okay. It shows us a wonderful list of information that can help us determine how are you doing. Or, first of all, where are you right now? And where do we need to start focusing our efforts, okay, to help in a personalized manner based on your genetics as well. Okay. And then, doing one maybe later on to say, okay, well, we've done all this work. Now, how are you doing? That's where, I was when I got my results today, because I put in that work. So I was saying, okay, how am I doing now? And actually I'm doing pretty damn good. So, oh, and something I wanted to mention, because I didn't even get to finish saying all the things that are included in the DNA4Women program. But three things that also are included in the program that I didn't get to mention is the DNA journal, which the men also get. DNA journal, really nice. I'll tell you, this is wonderful. I have so many of my clients journaling, writing down frustrations, wins, all kinds of things. This is where you can put it in your journal. And it is wonderful to see the evolution, that progression. It's not just trying to remember, oh gosh, this is where I was, last year or 6 months ago, and how you're feeling now, because feeling good becomes your norm, which is what it should be. But to actually see what you wrote and the things that you dealt with, from the beginning, and that journey that you are journaling, that journey. And then you can see all the little wins and how all those little wins stacked up come out to be huge wins. And that is what can lead you to fulfilling your goals for 2025. Another thing that you also get in the DNA4Women, like the men, blue light blocker glasses. Remember, light, big player in good health, So yes, get outside, get some of that natural sunlight, that photobiomodulation you get with natural sun and all the wonderful benefits. But you also have to protect your eyes from, fake light, from the blue light coming off of all these devices. I mean, it is after dark now here. I'm in the Northeast, and it's in winter. And here I've got all these lights shining on me. So I want to protect my eyes, because I want to be able to get to bed tonight, and I want to be able to sleep well and have good quality sleep. So that's a major component in that. So you get the blue light blocking glasses. And then of course the unlimited access 24/7 to the nurse hotline. So that is part of both programs. Very, very important. So you're not going to feel left out in the cold. If you need some help, if you're having a hard time, if something's not working, we got you.
That's right. So tomorrow, just to be sure, in your DNA report, it's going to talk about, are you androgen dominant, estrogen dominant, co-dominant? Do you have a tendency toward potentially estrogen toxicity? can you make vitamin D? Can you absorb vitamin D? All of those kind of things, but it doesn't show you what's actually happening at the moment. The Dutch test is going to be the metabolites at the moment that says which pathway are you going down. So like Dr. Lara says, she has a tendency toward the negative pathway, which is the 4-hydroxy, but she's been taking things to block that. And guess what? She's blocking it. I make very little 4, but I make a ton of 16. Now 16 is a proliferative one, which is good because I had osteopenia. I didn't want to go to osteoporosis. I've been able to reverse that. So I've proliferated my bone, but then I came back with a test that said that maybe I was proliferating in my breast. So we had to knock down that and shift it a little. So it's kind of like easing through, easing back. Justin, again, I want to just tell you what an impact you're making tonight. There was another fabulous comment about love that we need warrior signals and scream it, man, scream it. Get on podcast, get on Tim Ferriss. Come on, talk to these men.
Shout out to Tim Ferriss and Peter Attia. If you want me on,
exactly.
I'd be honored.
Big kudos for that. And then also Doug says, how do I get involved? Justin, I'm interested. Let's go. So the links are in the line for the DNA4Men, DNA4Women. Doug, we will definitely get you hooked up with Justin. You can request him personally. He is a gem, as you guys can all tell. And you're all gems. We appreciate that you have stayed with us the whole time. Guess what, guys? Everybody stayed with us the whole time. This just shows the impact that you made by sharing your personal stories, by sharing what it means to be a personalized practitioner, sharing what it means to have precision. We care that you care. We care about your health. We care about your success. We're here to hold your hand and get you over the line. If you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, it's time for a change. And that's why our owner and founder and CEO extraordinaire, a warrior woman in her own right, created DNA4Women, DNA4Men, and we're here to serve you. Thank you for being with us tonight. God bless, be well, be healthy, and we'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye now.
Thanks so much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.